Thank you very much. Good evening and welcome to the Planning and Zoning Board Variance meeting of March 21st, 2022. I am Briggs Simmons, the Planning and Zoning Chair. Prior to this meeting, invitations were sent to all board members, staff, applicants, and those participating in the meeting. All applicants will automatically be on mute at the start of the meeting. We'll need to manually unmute your microphone to speak, or your telephone if you're on the phone. Please remember to place yourself back on mute once you have finished speaking so as to minimize any background noise in the meeting. Members of the Planning and Zoning Board present tonight, if you would answer when I call your name. Teresa Knowles, the Vice Chair, is excused tonight. Brandon Penniman. I do not see him on yet. Rob Thomas.
Present.
Oric Curry. Mr. Curry.
Chairman, he texted me he was going to join, so.
I see him in the meeting, but I do not see a microphone beside his name. I see a camera.
Okay.
So he's here. Frank Payne.
Here.
Kirk Nicholson.
Here.
Thank you very much. Mr. Curry may be back shortly. It looks like he's rebooting. Mr. Ron Roberts, our Planning and Zoning Manager, will now introduce the county staff, Planning and Zoning staff present in the meeting. Mr. Roberts.
Thank you. Yeah, we have the county attorney, Michael Coleman. James Worthington will be joining shortly. He's Development Services Director. We have the Transportation Director, Miguel Valentin, our Zoning Administrator, Phil Schaefer, Senior Planner, Allison Duncan, and the Clerk of the Planning and Zoning Board, Johanna Womack, is on.
Thank you very much, Mr. Roberts. Let me go over tonight's procedures for everyone. The chairman will conduct the public hearing on these matters. Mr. Roberts will announce each application, followed by Planning and Zoning staff who will present each application in full. Then either the applicant or the applicant's representative may present their request. Following that, members of the public in favor of the application will have a total of 30 minutes to speak, 3 minutes per person on behalf of the application. Following those that are in favor of the application, we will allot the same amount of time for anyone in opposition to the application, 3 minutes per person, for a total allocated time of 30 minutes. Following that, the public hearing will be officially closed. At that point, the staff will clarify any points of the case that the Planning and Zoning Board would like to ask about. If the staff is unable to satisfy the board's questions, the board will then ask the applicant for points of clarification. And remember, this is not a time to represent your case. Following that, the Planning and Zoning Board will entertain a motion. The first thing on our agenda tonight is the approval of the minutes of the February 21st, 2022 variance meeting. Does any Planning and Zoning member have any comments or questions concerning these minutes? Hearing none, do I have a motion from Planning and Zoning Board?
It's Kurt Nicholson, motion to approve, Mr. Chairman.
I have a
Frank
motion.
Payne.
Do I have a second?
Frank Payne, second.
I have a motion and a second. Do I have any discussion? Hearing none, if you would vote to approve or deny approval when I call your name. Mr. Thomas.
Approve.
Mr. Curry.
Approve.
Mr. Payne.
Approve.
Mr. Nicholson.
Approve.
Okay. Did Mr. Penniman join us yet? I do not see him in the meeting. Chairman approves. Therefore, the minutes of the February 21st, 2022 meeting of the Planning and Zoning Board Variance have been approved. Mr. Roberts, would you introduce the next agenda item for us, please?
Yes, sir, I will. It's D 2022-01, Roderick and Beverly Winfield. It's a request for a special exception variance to reduce the side yard setback from 15 to 0 feet for an accessory car awning and parking pad located at 3888 Craggy Perch, Douglasville, 30135. This is land lot 90, District 1, Section 5, and Parcel 191. Lot size is 0.51 acres, Chairman, and it's in District number 3.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Roberts. I believe this is Mr. Schaefer's case. Mr. Schaefer, would you give us the staff recommendations, please?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, thank you. Property is located on the north side of Craggy Perch. The site's developed with a single-family residence, paved entry driveway, and part of a subdivision, as all the houses out there are also with paved driveways and single-family residences. The driveway and parking pad for the carport awning were poured in such a way that they are encroaching across the property line. And so in the process of realizing that, a lot line adjustment plat was prepared and recorded to eliminate the encroachments physically. However, we do still now need to have permission for the awning itself to have a 0 setback instead of the required 15-foot setback. The applicant and the neighbor have in fact worked together on this in order to complete that property line adjustment and remove the physical encroachment. The staff has reviewed this and there are no planning concerns, especially since the neighbors had to work together in order to create the plat, which is a revision to a recorded subdivision plat. The property is zoned residential low density, as you can see in the red outline here on the north side of Craggy Perch. This is a photo of the property, and you can see that there is a bit of an encroachment across the property line. And then this is the recorded lot line rearrangement, which is a revised final plat for the Nature's Point subdivision for the 2 lots. So we took a little bit away from lot 221 and added it into lot 220 so that the property would become physically compliant with everything being on the correct side of the property line for the applicant. In addition, this is a little bit closer view of what was adjusted. We were careful to maintain the lot 221 neighboring property so that it remained compliant with the zoning code of 15,000 square foot minimum lot size. And then the adjusted lot line now encompasses all of the improvements that are on the property. The site here, just before the actual pouring and the adjustment where they built the awning and the car pad, this is just before that. And then just so we verify that variance criteria are all met, and staff is recommending approval with the findings that the special exception variance does meet the required standards for approval, and the granting of the special acceptance variance will not adversely affect the public health, safety, or welfare. And I believe Ms. Winfield is on the line here, so she can address any specific issues, but that's my staff report.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Schaefer. We appreciate that. Ms. Winfield, or Mr. Winfield, if you are here and would like to state anything for the board, now is your time. Go ahead.
Hi, I'm Beverly Hill Winfield. My husband, Roderick Winfield, is here, and our neighbor is here as well. We just appreciate you taking the time to review this request. We really don't have anything additional to add, based on what's already been communicated by Phil.
Okay, well, thank you very much, Ms. Winfield. If you would just stand by for a minute, I will have the public hearing on this matter, and then we'll move on to voting. I will open the public hearing in favor of this application. If anyone would like to speak in favor of this application, please unmute your system, state your name and address for the record. You would have 3 minutes per speaker for a total allocated time of 30 minutes. Go ahead. Okay, seeing or hearing none or having no notification of anyone wishing to speak in favor, I will move to the opposition. Anyone wishing to speak in opposition to this application, please unmute your system. You have 3 minutes per person. for a total allocated time of 30 minutes. Unmute your system, state your name and address for the record, and make any statements you would like. Go ahead. Hearing nor seeing none or having notification of anybody wishing to speak in application, I will now officially close the public hearing on this matter. Planning and Zoning Board, do you have any questions of Mr. Schaefer or Ms. Winfield?
Chairman Briggs, it's Rob Thomas. I have
Go
a
ahead.
question for Ms. Winfield.
Yes.
Kind of obvious question. What happened? Was your contractor not aware of the property line, or just want to know what happened on this era?
Yes, we wasn't aware of the property line.
Was this a contractor that put it down, or not?
The contractor put the army up, the
Carport.
carports up. So we had already got approval through the HOA and all that. So we didn't think it was a problem. Then we found out that we was like a foot over on a neighbor line. That when I got contact with Phil, and he took us through the procedures, got the guys to come out and do the measurement. I don't know the proper word for it, but what they did to move the stick and the pins.
Yeah, we had a surveyor come out after the fact.
Yeah, I understand that after the fact. I'm just wondering before the fact, like, you did the. I just wondering how the mistake, because it happens a lot. And I just want to know, how it happened in this particular situation. So you just assumed that was your lot, that was your land that you.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So, it's an honest mistake. I'm just curious. Thank you.
And y'all have talked with the neighbors and made all of the proper adjustments to the property line, and everybody's happy over there, correct?
Yes.
That's correct.
And the neighbor here is present.
Okay. Planning and Zoning Board, any more questions there? Hearing no more questions, Planning and Zoning Board, may I have a motion on this matter of the special exception variance B 2022-01?
Chairman, it's Rob Thomas. I'd like to make a motion.
Okay,
I'd like to make a motion to approve application B 2022-01, a request for a special exception variance to reduce the side yard setback from 15 feet for an accessory car awning with parking pad with the conditions presented by staff, the findings presented by staff.
okay, we also need to add the street address in there too, Mr. Thomas, at
Sure.
3888 Craggy Perch, Douglasville 30135. Is that good, Mr. Thomas, to add that?
Yeah. Yes, it is. It's not on the page, but yeah, that's correct. Thank you.
But, okay, so we have a motion. Do I have a second?
This is Frank Payne, our second.
Thank you, Mr. Payne. I have a motion and a second. Do we have any discussion, Planning and Zoning Board? Hearing no discussion, I will call for the question. Please answer the affirmative or the negative. Mr. Thomas,
Yay.
Mr. Curry,
Yay.
Mr. Payne,
Yay.
Mr. Nicholson. I believe he's rebooting at this point in time. Mr. Penniman, I see you're on now.
Yay. Mr. Penniman says yay.
Thank you very much, Mr. Penniman. Chairman says yay also, so the motion passes. Ms. Winfield, we wish you the best going forward on that, but you do have your variance now.
Thank you so much. We really appreciate it. Thank you for your time.
You're welcome. Thank you. Mr. Roberts, would you introduce the next agenda item, please?
Yes, sir. V 2022-04, Charles and Carol Stevens. Request for a hardship variance to allow the storage of an RV in the side yard on a corner lot with two front yards located at 3750 Charlie Lane, Douglasville, 30135, land lot 89, District 1, Section 5, Parcel 36, lot size 46, and this is Commission District number 3, and this is Allison Duncan's case, Chairman.
Okay, thank you very much. Ms. Duncan, would you present the staff findings for us, please?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. I'd also like to say I have Mr. Stevens on my speakerphone here with me. I'd just like to make sure, Mr. Stevens, can you hear everything okay?
I heard him, yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
And Mr. Chairman, can you hear Mr. Stevens?
Yes, I can.
Okay, great, thank you. I will continue with my staff report. Here is an image of the zoning map for Mr. Stevens' property, and here is the aerial image. As Mr. Roberts had indicated, this is an issue where we have a corner lot. So this lot is at the corner of Charlie Lane and Juanita Lane. That essentially means that under our code, a corner lot has 2 front setbacks. This issue did come to us through code enforcement. The Unified Development Code requires that the storage of a recreational vehicle take place in either a side or rear yard, but because of the unique circumstances of this property, having what we consider to be 2 front yards, the recreational vehicle, which you can see here on my screen in this aerial, is actually stored in what would technically be considered a front yard. Here is a view of the property from Charlie Lane. You can see the architectural front of the house is on Charlie Lane, and you can see the RV in the side yard there. And you can see here another view of the RV in what would, in most instances, be a side yard, but because of the unique circumstances of the corner lot, presents itself as 2 front yards. And here is a view of the property, so you can see the existing vegetation on the property and the existing fence that surrounds the rear of the property, which is why the staff does believe there is true hardship with actually relocating the RV to a rear or side yard per our code. Staff has analyzed the criteria under the code, and we do find that it satisfies the criteria of the Unified Development Code. Therefore, staff is recommending approval of application B 2022-04. And that concludes my report.
Thank you very much, Ms. Duncan. Mr. Stevens, would you please state your name and address for the record, and you can give us any information that you would like the board to consider on behalf of this application.
Yes, Charles J. Stevens Sr., 3750 Charlie Lane, Douglasville, Georgia, 30135. And I've been living here since 1986, and I've had an RV in that same spot since, not the same one naturally, but it's been there for over 30 years. And the other, another person came out and looked at it one time and said it was okay. So I'm 83 years old, and to go ahead and cut the curb and put in a sidewalk or a driveway and everything to put it in the other side, it would really be a strain on me. Also, I can't do the work myself. I have to get it paid because I've got 6 ruptured discs and I'm under doctor's care.
Okay, is that it, Mr. Stevens?
Pardon me?
I said, is that it for your presentation?
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much. If you would just stand by there. I will open the public hearing on this matter. Anyone wishing to speak in favor of this application, please unmute your system, state your name and address for the record. You would have 3 minutes per person for a total allocated time of 30 minutes. Anyone wishing to speak in favor, go ahead. Hearing or seeing one or having no notification of anyone wishing to speak, I will close the public hearing in favor and open the public hearing. Anyone wishing to speak in opposition to this application, please unmute your system, state your name and address for the record, and then make any comments you would like. You would have 3 minutes per person for a total allocated time of 30 minutes. Go ahead.
This is Barbara Mapson at 4075 Juanita Lane, Douglasville, Georgia, 30135. And I live next door on Juanita Lane. And the way that I see this RV, it's kind of an eyesore. I mean, when I first moved here, they had a smaller one, which is true. And then they got the bigger one, and they had both of them. And then finally they sold it. And most of the time, the RV just sits there. I'm lucky if I see that RV move maybe twice a year. So I can't see the point of just having it being there. It's an eyesore, and it's also dangerous because there are children in the neighborhood that ride up and down the street, Juanita Lane or Charlie Lane, and they could get hit trying to make it around that corner if no one sees them. And that's why I just can't see that just sitting there, constantly sitting there. As he said, he's 80 something years old, and it just hardly ever gets used. And that's all I have to say about it. It also, I'm sorry, as far as I'm concerned, I think it brings down the value of the properties around there because they're the only ones that have that big monstrosity, and it's right on the corner. And that's all I have to say.
Mr. Chairman, are you still available?
Who, me?
Yes.
No.
I'm sorry, I had it on mute, as I have asked everybody else to do. Thank you, Ms. Mapson. At this point in time, is there anyone else wishing to speak in opposition to this application? Please unmute your system, state your name and address for the record, and you would have 3 minutes per person. Go ahead. Hearing none and having no notification of anyone else wishing to speak, I will close the public hearing on this matter. Any questions of Mr. Stevens or staff from Planning and Zoning Board?
Mr. Stevens, this is Frank Payne. I have a question. I noticed that you also have a couple of cars that are parked right there in the driveway. Is there any way you can move the cars and pull it up a little closer to your driveway, up your driveway?
Yes.
I wonder if that would satisfy the concern of being able to see it around the corner.
I guess I can move it up. I couldn't get. I have a car in the drive. I have a car in the garage. If I move it up against the garage, I'll have to hook up to the trailer, move the trailer every time I want to take that car out.
Okay. I was just concerned more so about the safety aspect.
I'm not the only person that has a big RV. There's another one in the driveway of a house here. I know she said that mine was the only one, but that's not true.
Okay, that was my concern. I was wondering if you can move it up a little. Okay, thank you.
Any other questions from Planning and Zoning staff? Planning and Zoning Board.
Yes, Mr. Curtin. Question. I noticed that there are two RVs there. It's a smaller one and a bigger one. Is it the smaller one no longer there, and you just have a bigger one now?
Yes, when I bought the big one, I sold the little one.
Okay, so you only have
I've had a big one ever since I lived here. I've had two 35-footers, and that's not. I've had 4 or 5 since I've lived here.
Okay.
And I had a small one I used for fishing, and I sold it. It's no longer here. It's been gone for a long time.
Okay, well,
that picture that they showed in the street view is probably 20 years old.
Yeah, this is Allison Duncan. I'll just chime in to say that Street View image was from a Google screen capture. It is a few years old. I have actually been out to make an inspection of the property, and based on the photos from code enforcement and what I saw during my site visit, he does only have the one larger RV still on the property.
Okay, I think it's just a concern is for us is the safety, especially being on that corner, and you have traffic or cars entering or trying to see around.
It's probably 35 feet away from the corner. It does not block the stop sign or nothing.
Okay, well, so it doesn't block the vision of a person who's driving up to there, and it doesn't block the sidewalk. Or I didn't think I saw a sidewalk.
There is no sidewalk.
Okay, yeah, there's no sidewalk. Okay. That's the only question I had.
Okay.
Any other questions, Planning and Zoning Board?
I do. Chairman, it's Rob Thomas. Hey, Allison, could you put the picture back up again of showing the two driveways?
The aerial picture?
Yes, please.
There you go.
Okay. All right. I thought we had two. Okay, he's got two. Okay, he's on a corner lot. He's not really doesn't have two driveways.
No, sir, there is a driveway off of Juanita Lane, and then you might be seeing, if I jump up here, you might be seeing the sidewalk to the mailbox. Okay. Right, so he does have a sidewalk to the mailbox in the front, and that comes out to Charlie Lane. But the only driveway is the driveway going to Juanita Lane.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Any other questions, Planning and Zoning Board? If not, do I have a motion?
This is Frank Payne. I make a motion to approve application V 2022-04, a request for hardship variance to allow storage of an RV in a front yard.
I need the address, please.
Let's see. The address is 3750 Charlie Lane, Douglasville, 3135.
Thank you very much. We do need the official address, and therefore V 2022-04. So I have a motion. Do I have a second?
This is Rob Thomas. A second.
Thank you, Mr. Thomas. I have a motion and a second. Planning and Zoning Board, do we have any discussion?
I have something to say.
I'm sorry, you're not Planning and Zoning Board.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That was been taking place at the public hearing.
Yeah, I have one. Because as we looked at the picture before, there was another RV that was parked sideways. Is it possible that can be parked sideways like the one in the picture? It's two there in the picture
Yes,
versus it being parked that way.
So just to clarify, I don't know if this picture helps. Again, I don't know the exact width of the driveway, but the RV, again, this was the older RV that you see in this photo, and just kind of showing you from the side, if it was parked sideways across the driveway, I don't know that they could utilize their entrances into their garage, and we would not allow them to park on the grass under our code.
Okay.
It would go on the ground.
Yeah, I just saw the other one that was parked sideways, so I thought it was a pad there. So, okay. No other questions.
Okay, any other comments, Planning and Zoning Board? I have a motion for approval of V 2022-04. As I call your name, please vote in the affirmative or the negative. Mr. Penniman.
Approve.
Mr. Thomas.
Yay. Approve.
Mr. Curry.
Yay.
Mr. Payne.
Yay.
Mr. Nicholson, are you back on? He has been trying to get his system back up, but he obviously is not here. But we have 4 affirmatives on this motion, so the motion passes. Mr. Stevens, you have your variance, and we wish you the best.
Thank you very much, sir.
Okay, Mr. Roberts, would you introduce the next item for us, please?
Yes, sir. B 2022-05. Mark Johnston Hopper, request for a hardship variance to reduce the rear yard setback from 30 feet to 10 feet for an accessory structure located at 3419 Mccown Road, Douglasville, 30134, land lot 726, District 18, Section 2, Parcel 3, lot size 1.9 acres. Commission District Number 1.
Okay, thank you very much. I believe this is Mr. Schaefer's case.
It is.
Mr. Schaefer, would you give us the staff findings and report on this, please?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Property is located on Mccown Road, developed as single-family residence. The property under Mr. Johnston's ownership includes the property immediately south and west of the tract that he is asking the variance upon. However, that larger tract is entirely within the city of Douglasville's jurisdiction. So part of the problem becomes in trying to adjust the rear yard setback. Normally, we would seek an adjustment to the property line if it was necessary to adjust the property line to meet the needs of the setbacks. But here, because we cross a jurisdictional boundary, we can't do that. The property has a shape that is triangular as you go towards the back, and so when you get to the rear of the property where the house already is and an existing structure already is, it becomes complicated to try and add another structure in here without the hardship variance coming into play. The property, if you look at the aerial, I'm going to actually throw the zoning map live on so you can see the property that we're talking about is within the red boundary here. The property identified in red is where the variance will go. The structure is being proposed for the backyard here. However, you can see that the property which he also owns is also in the city of Douglasville. And so that complicates how you would try to do a lot line adjustment, because now you would try to do an adjustment to a lot line that would bring property from the city into the county, and we don't do that. In addition, so there's the picture of that. He's provided a survey of the property to show where the existing house is. There's a little enlargement of where the house is, showing the proposed structure is really pinched up against the back end, given that there is a utility easement very close to where he wants to build, and that pinches the property even more, causing him to put the structure so that he doesn't encumber the septic field for the house and the trees that are already there. It required an adjustment of 10 feet 20 for the setback instead of the required setback. We've looked at it. Here's a picture of the power line, the easement that runs through the side of the property. Here's his front driveway, and you can see in the back the house existing there. This is the actual lot to his west that opens up into that large city of Douglasville property, has an easement. We've evaluated the criteria, and it does meet all the criteria for the variance, and we are recommending approval of the variance with the following findings: that the special exception variance meets the required standards for approval, and granting the special exception variance will not adversely affect public health, safety, or welfare. Be glad to answer any questions, and I believe Mr. Johnston is on the call this evening, on the computer this evening.
Yes, that's correct. I'm here.
Thank you very much, Mr. Schaefer. Mr. Hopper, is it Hopper?
Yeah, Johnstone Hopper.
Okay, Mr. Hopper, Mr. Johnstone Hopper, if you would like to make a presentation to the board, say anything to the board before we take this under consideration, time is yours. You would have a maximum of 15 minutes.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Mr. Schaefer, for listening to this for me. Really, the big thing for me is to be able to use the land without getting rid of the beautiful trees that have been there already. And with the kind of setback issues and the easement issues, it does kind of jam me into a back corner. But I believe Mr. Schaefer has done a very good job in representing everything that's there and the problems that are there with it. So That's all I really have to say. So thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much. If you would just stand by for a moment, I will open the public hearing on this matter. If anyone is wishing to speak in favor of this application, please unmute your system, state your name and address for the record. You would have 3 minutes per person for a total allocated time of 30 minutes. Anyone wishing to speak in favor, go ahead. Hearing or seeing no one trying to speak at this point in time, I will close the public hearing. Those in favor, and open the public hearing. Anyone wishing to speak in opposition to this application, please unmute your system, state your name and address for the record. You would have 3 minutes per person for a total allocated time of 30 minutes. Anyone wishing to speak in opposition, go ahead. Hearing or seeing no one wishing to speak in opposition, I will close the public hearing on this matter. Planning and Zoning Board, do I have any questions from you for Mr. Schaefer or the applicant? Hearing none or seeing none at this point in time, I will ask for a motion, Planning and Zoning Board. Planning and Zoning Board.
Chairman,
Motion.
this is Rob Thomas. I just give a motion. Excuse me. It's a motion to approve with conditions per staff recommendation. Application V 2022-05, located on. Don't have the address. Hold on.
I've got it on the screen.
Oh, there we go. 3419 Mccown Road, Douglasville. Mccown Road in Douglasville, 30134. Hardship variance to reduce the rear yard setback from 30 to 10 feet for an accessory structure with the findings and as presented by the staff.
Okay, Mr. Thomas, you said with conditions. There were no conditions. Did you have something to add? There were just findings.
Yes, not the modified conditions, just the findings only. Yeah.
Findings from staff. Okay. I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Frank Payne, second.
Thank you very much. I have a motion and a second. Do we have any discussion, Planning and Zoning Board? Hearing no discussion, I will call for a vote on V 2022-05, hardship variance at 3419 Mccown Road, Douglasville 30134. When I call your name, please answer in the affirmative or the negative. Mr. Penniman.
Approve.
Mr. Thomas.
Yay.
Mr. Curry.
Yay.
Mr. Payne.
Yay.
Mr. Nicholson, are you back on?
Mr. Chairman, I am back on, but I missed the entire discussion, so I'm not sure that I can vote.
Okay, you're going to abstain from this one.
I believe I should abstain. Yes, thank you.
Okay, Chairman votes in favor of the motion, so the motion carries. Mr. Johnston Hopper, you have your variance. Seems like a good use of the property there. We wish you the best going forward.
Thank you very much. I'm much appreciated.
You are more than welcome. Mr. Roberts, would you give us our next agenda item, please? V 2022-06.
Yes, sir. It's the last item for tonight. V 22-06, Johnston Development Associates request for a special exception variance to reduce 50-foot zoning buffer to 21.1 foot located at 745 Linda Lane, Lithia Springs, 30122, land lot 706, District 18, Section 2, Parcel 10. Lot size is 10.6 acres in District Number 2.
Okay, thank you very much. I believe this is Mr. Schaefer's case also. Mr. Schaefer, would you give us the staff findings, please?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, thank you. Property is located on the north side of Factory Shoals Road and the south side of Linda Lane. Last year, we approved a light industrial zoning for the property from commercial zoning. Site is still heavily wooded and undeveloped, but they're asking for the variance so that it would allow a little bit of a difference in terms of what the setbacks for the structure's buffer would be from the residential properties to the west. The access to the property would still be from Factory Shoals. There would be no access permitted from Linda Lane as we conditioned that rezoning previously. The applicant proposes to reduce an undisturbed buffer between incompatible land uses to 21 feet in lieu of the required 50 feet so they can accommodate the building and, more importantly, the driveway siting along that side of the building. They would construct an 8-foot privacy fence along that property line and install landscaping to achieve a visual barrier between the two properties. We don't see any significant planning concerns as long as we will follow that particular course of action. The property was rezoned under Z 2021-71 in November of 21, and the proposed warehouse, quite large, and the reduction in the vicinity of an existing single-family home does cause a little bit of concern. The neighboring residence is about 30 feet from the common property line. The warehouse structure will be approximately 56 to 58 feet from that same property line, but it will be 36 feet tall, so it's difficult to diminish that visual intrusion between the two properties. And given that the driveway requirements from the fire marshal necessitate a 26-foot wide drive lane along that side of the building, it's going to have some diminishment of the actual the buffer requirement between incompatible land uses. So putting in additional landscaping and fencing is what would be required. You're allowed to reduce the setbacks if you will provide a mechanical buffer, a structural buffer, which is part of our code. I'll show you that in a moment. The zoning on the property is not CG, it's actually LI. It was approved, as I said, in November. There is residential zoning at the northwest corner of the property. The site plan calls for fencing to be erected along that common property line with additional landscaping as needed. The home that is adjacent is approximately here. I'm giving you a red arrow from the northwest corner of this schematic at the bottom of the picture so that you can see that is the northwest corner here on the colored overlay of the property. In terms of the site planning, this is the warehouse proposal as it's come through the Development Review Committee, and unfortunately, given that there is a high pressure fresh water line along Thornton Road at the front end of this project, causing everything to be moved to the west, to the rear of the project, and that's what's jamming the building a little too far to the west. However, the fire marshal does require a 26-foot wide fire lane, a minimum of 15 feet from the facade of the building to run along the back side of this property. And while that may be fine at the south end where the zoning opposite is light industrial, when you get to the north end where the residential properties are, you bump into that 50-foot wide undisturbed buffer requirement. Now, as I said earlier, you can reduce that buffer by 60% if you will provide a structural buffer, which includes fencing and berming and landscaping. In this case, however, given the two constraints of the water line in the front, the requirement of the fire marshal for the Thornton side of the building, which is where all of the activity bays for a warehouse will be located, has to be a certain width so that fire trucks can turn around. In addition to the requirement of the fire lane along the back side of the building, we are bumping into having to cut down some of the existing tree coverage that would have in fact provided that 50-foot undisturbed buffer that obscures the building from the home to the west. And here on the left, you can see that there's a residential zoning here on the left-hand picture of the survey. The overlay, here's what the properties look like from the air so that you can see there is Linda Lane, still has residential properties on it. The property immediately to the west, south of all the Linda Lane properties, is originally zoned light industrial for the T5 company, but they have yet to break ground on their project, which we reviewed for rezoning some years back. Again, here's a photo of the Linda Lane side of the property, and here's a photo of the Factory Shoals side just before you would get to the entrance to the proposed building. And this is looking east along Factory Shoals to show you the existing building that's there, and the driveway to the new building would be opposite that. Again, this is a little closer up view. The opposite from this driveway is where the new building would enter. Staff has reviewed it and believes that given that you are allowed to reduce the buffers given a mechanical structural buffer, that in fact it is supportive as long as we can provide as much buffer between the residents and the building as possible. As I said, the building itself does not encroach into that setback, only the driveway does, but it does reduce the amount of forested cover that would be remaining. And so we would require them to, at least in the very minimal, attempt to do an 8-foot tall with landscaping fencing along their grading elevations so that it maximizes the obscuring of the building from the resident's backyard. Given that, the special exception variance criteria are all met, and we would recommend approval with the finding that special exception variance meets the required standards for approval. The special exception, the granting of the special exception variance will not adversely affect the public health, safety, or welfare. And the conditions are 3, and I will read them. Condition number 1, the required 50-foot zone reduced to a minimum of 21 feet to allow for a proposed driveway fire lane encroachment as shown on the provided site plans. The temporary number 2, temporary encroachment into the required minimum 21-foot setback will be permitted for the purpose of regrading, landscaping, and fencing installation to create the appropriate structural buffer required. And number 3, an 8-foot privacy fence with appropriate landscaping acceptable to the county arborist shall be installed along the common property line, generally so as to optimize the amount of screening that can be achieved using the grading envelopes to enhance the maximum height achievable according to the portion of the site plan shown here for detail, so that you can see approximately where the fencing would go. There are grading plans in the engineer's office that show in a little better detail where the fence could be maximized given the difference in elevation between the two properties. And with that, I will conclude my staff report and ask if there's any questions, or if I believe that the representatives are on the line to be able to answer additional or present additional information.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Schaefer. Would the applicant or the applicant's representative please unmute your system, state your name and address for the record, and present anything that you would like the board to hear. You would have 15 minutes. Is there no one here representing this application?
I thought Mr. Turner was on the line.
Hey, yes, this is Rollins Turner with Johnson Development. Yes, I think Mr. Schaefer did a great job of explaining everything we're going for with this special exception variance this evening, so I have no more to add, but we also have our civil engineer on the line that can answer any technical questions if there are any that come up this evening. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Turner. Would you go back and state your name and address for the record,
Yes.
please?
Sorry, yes, my name is Rollins Turner, and 100 Dunbar Street, Spartanburg, South Carolina, 29306. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Turner. At this point in time, I will open the public hearing on this matter. Anyone wishing to speak in favor of this application, please unmute your system, state your name and address for the record, You would have 3 minutes per person for a total allocated time of 30 minutes. Anyone wishing to speak in favor, go ahead. Hearing or seeing none, I will close the public hearing on those wishing to speak in favor and open the public hearing. Anyone wishing to speak in opposition to this application, please unmute your system, state your name and address for the record. You would have 3 minutes per person for a total allocated time of 30 minutes. Go ahead. Okay, seeing or hearing no one wishing to speak in opposition to this application, I will close the public hearing on this matter. Planning and Zoning Board, do you have any questions of the applicant or of Mr. Schaefer? Oh, before I do that, Mr. Turner, are you still there?
I am, yes, sir.
You heard the conditions that Mr. Schaefer read into this approval. Are you and your clients in agreement to these conditions?
We are in agreement with those conditions.
Okay, thank you very much. Now, Planning and Zoning Board, any questions? Hearing no questions from Planning and Zoning Board, I would ask for a motion, please, on B 2022-06.
This is Frank Payne. I make a motion to approve application V 2022-06, a request for a special exemption variance to reduce the 50 feet zoning buffer to 21 feet and 1 foot with the findings and conditions as outlined and stated by staff.
Thank you very much.
And the property is located at 745 Linda Lane, Lithia Springs, 30122.
Thank you very much, Mr. Payne. I have a motion. Do I have a second? Planning and Zoning Board.
Mr. Chairman. Sorry, go ahead, Rob.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Planning and Zoning Board, is there any discussion before we vote? Hearing no discussion, I will call for a vote on B 2022-06, a special exception variance at 745 Linda Lane, Lithia Springs. As I call your name, please answer in the affirmative or the negative. Mr. Nicholson.
Approved.
Mr. Payne.
Yay.
Mr. Curry.
Yay.
Mr. Thomas.
Yay.
And Mr. Penniman.
Approved.
Thank you very much. Chairman approves also. You have your special exception variance on that property. Mr. Turner, we wish you and your clients the best going forward on this.
Thank you all very much.
Thank you. Mr. Roberts, I don't believe we have anything else on our agenda tonight, do we?
No, sir, we did not.
Okay, thank you everyone for being here. We certainly appreciate your participation and your input. At this point in time, we will adjourn the Planning and Zoning Board variance meeting